Hi guys and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about 3 techniques that I use to come up with ideas for what to draw when I'm really just struggling to come up with any ideas. This is pretty much almost always the case when it comes time for me to work on a new piece of artwork. That's no secret. I don't come up with ideas easily. I tend to really have to fight against it for a while and then eventually something works. Very rarely do I have a time where a concept just pops into my head and I'm just really excited to just get at it. But anyways, these are some of the techniques that I use. The piece that I'm working on today, of course, the original is going to be available at my shop, but I also will have her and 3 other stickers included in a sticker pack over at my shop. And it's been a while since I've added stickers over there, so I am excited about that. If you guys would like a pack of these stickers over at my shop, then there's that link down in the description below. But let's just jump right in with tip number 1, and that is combining things. So there are a lot of things that I enjoy painting or I like the idea of painting, but when I just think of that singular thing, oftentimes it just feels a little too done, a little bit too bland, something that doesn't quite hook me and get my attention, and it feels like it's lacking something. So for me, I did this witch painting last week that's over on my Patreon if you didn't see it, but I loved it. It was really fun, and it was a very pure Halloween kind of a witch. And today I don't know, I still had that in my blood, I guess. I wanted to draw a little bit more of a witch. So I was sketching them out, but it just was not hooking me, and I find that happens a lot when I'm struggling with working on getting an idea for what to work on, is that I'll get things down on paper and objectively there's something there, but my interest just isn't sparked by it. And I find when I'm feeling like that, I like to combine things. So today the default theme was witch, and then I was looking for, okay, well, what can I add to this to make it a unique take on it, something a little bit more special. And after I started thinking through that and working on just sketching, just purely letting it go where it needed to, I ended up getting the rough for what I'm working on today, which is this kind of a zombified witch, which was something that I don't think I've really done before. And even if I have, it doesn't really matter if I have or not. But in that moment, it was new and fresh. It was a take that I was excited to do of a witch. So it took off. It became something that I was interested in. So for today, I knew that default theme, I guess I'll call it, but a lot of times it is something that I have to assign for myself to get the ball rolling. And a lot of times it ends up being a type of character, because that's what I'm really focused on. I love creating artwork that's very character focused. So if I'm really struggling, sometimes I need to sit down and say, okay, well, I'm going to do a pirate character. What can I add to that? And I can have a lot of different variations of combinations of things that hopefully will springboard me into working on something that's interesting in that moment, on that day. And I think that that's really all that I can ever ask for, is in that moment, if it's something that I'm excited and I think it'll be fun to work on, then that's good. Then I've accomplished something. And my second tip is finding inspiration from the things that you loved in your past. So this is definitely nothing new or novel to it, but as artists, we gather inspiration from the media that we consume that we happen to love, or at least a lot of us do. I certainly do. But I can very easily fall into the trap of just looking at the stuff that I'm currently consuming that I'm really interested in, or those like main ones that are just always in my mind. But there are so many sources of inspiration that I've had over the years, all the way back to childhood, and I like taking time when I'm just really struggling sometimes to look back and step back in time to find things that I found so inspiring, things that I used to love drawing to or getting ideas for new paintings way back in my past. There are cartoons from when I was growing up, like Anastasia or Swan Princess or The Last Unicorn, things like that, where I may not have watched them in years, or maybe even a decade for some of those, but they're things that I loved, and being able to go back and think, okay, well, what did I find really inspiring about this when I when I watched it before? How can I interpret that into how I feel now and how I create artwork now? Because a lot of these things, I was at a different place when I consumed them last and when I made artwork inspired by them. And now I have a different set of skills, I have a different perspective on it, so I can get a different outcome. And I think it's very helpful to get back into the roots of what you do find really inspirational. I'm like a lot of us, I think, right currently now we're watching Avatar: The Last Airbender again. I love it, of course, but there's so many things about that show that I find deeply inspirational for my artwork, and I'm trying to really pay attention to those things as I'm watching through it so that as I'm finished with it, I can bring that and infuse it into my artwork. And this way of finding inspiration is something that I would like to get a little bit more analytical with. I love making lists, and I would like to be able to go back and write down kind of a master list of things that I found really inspiring over the years, so that when I'm having issues coming up with ideas, I can just peruse through that list. And not only just the list, but I would also like to break it down by what were things that I found inspiring. Were there elements in the story? Was it character design, general aesthetic? If I can break that down into little points that can be taken and I can take several of them or several different ones from different sources and then bring them into where I'm at currently and what I'm struggling with in that moment, I think that would be really inspiring and exciting. And yes, I would really like to do that. I love being able to think about things and think about how it actually has impacted me and affected me. And I think that that'll also help me find more appreciation in the things that I do love. I can pick it out and know exactly why I like it, or it can help me find new things that I like about it that I've never really thought about before. And my third and final tip is a little bit specific, but I find that this one tends to unfailingly get me out of a slump when I'm really struggling for ideas, and that's borrowing from mythology or fairy tales or stories. I love doing this because it allows me a place where I can really dig in and find a character that I find really fascinating and interesting, or visuals that might be in the story that I could really just make my own and put my own take on it, and then it's still something that really resonates with people and it resonates with me and it's stood the test of time and it has all of these really amazing benefits to it. And that's just if I happen to stick very closely to the original source. So that's one way of doing it, where I can pick a character from mythology and just create my take on it, and that's that. And then it's exciting and it's done, and I have an idea and people know what it is, or they can know what it is if I do it a certain way. But I've also found a lot of times when I use this method, I end up going down a different path. It gives me this really exciting rush of, oh well, I can do this with this character, and I can do that to make it look like this element in the story or this key part of the character, and then it ends up leading me farther down a path that ends up being something more of my own take on it. And I love that. I find it really exciting to be able to take one source and infuse my own ideas and elements into it, and then end up with something truly unique and different. And this rarely happens when I'm intentionally trying to force it. So this usually works when I am in a slump, when I'm just struggling at coming up with an idea, and I need a starting point. I have to have something so I can start working on ideas, I can start working on some artwork, and then just getting lost in that really exciting progress of learning more about a culture or an element in mythology, and then following with where I'm most excited about it. So yeah, this is one of my favorite ones to do because I find that it's the most enlightening, I guess. It ends up filling me with more elements to think about and consider in future artwork that I do. But ultimately, I think my real takeaway with this, with the 3 tips on coming up with ideas, is that I always have to push past an initial resistance to it. I always have to make myself commit to continuing to draw, commit to getting into that sketching zone. And when I use these techniques and I'm really just diligent about sticking to drawing and exploring ideas, then I usually end up getting something that I'm excited about and interested in. Even though at the beginning of that session of brainstorming, I usually feel very far away from that. I feel like I have absolutely no ideas. I feel completely uncreative, like I'm never going to come up with something, and it's through that perseverance and dedication that I end up breaking through that and getting to a point where I actually do have something to show for it and something to work on. And I do have this piece and 3 others as part of a sticker pack over at my shop, which I'm really excited about because it's been a while since I've had new stickers over there. And I have the original painting at my shop as well, so if you'd like to own a little original, then that is over there. There's a link down in the description that'll take you over to my shop. And of course, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are absolutely incredible. You help me do this for a living, and I can't thank you enough for that. And I do have the 11x14 print of my last witch painting that'll be sent out to all of my Citrine tier patrons over there, and that's by the end of the month. So if you want to check that out, then the link is down in the description as well. But yeah, that is about it. So I'll be back next week with another art video, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you then.